Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm reviewing Box Barcelona, now streaming on Netflix. So Box Barcelona is a spin-off to the 2018 film Bird Box. It's not a direct sequel, so it doesn't pick up directly after the film or even directly before the film. It takes place in the same timeline, but as you suspect from the title, it is in Barcelona. And it tells the story of our main character, Sebastian, who's played by Mario Casas. He is an individual that is thrown into the events of the Bird Box apocalypse, like we saw in the first film. We get another sequence of the beginning of the end with these kind of mysterious creatures forcing people to kill themselves. And we're following his story as someone who is really struggling with his understanding and his faith of the events that are taking place. He's really haunted by the ghosts of his past, almost literally, in this film. And it really dives into some of the more capabilities of these entities. There's a lot of twists and turns along the way, and we have a lot of flashbacks that kind of tell the origins of our main character and what he's gone through. His motivations in many ways are linked to his daughter, and throughout the film you see his daughter kind of speaking to him and telling him what he should do and driving his motivations, like I said, throughout the film. So some of the things he does are a little frustrating. I will say it's hard to get your arms around this main character. He's a very flawed individual. He's kind of hard to root for, but by the end of the film I feel like he does have a pretty complete character arc, and I do think there's a lot of complexities to this story that the first film didn't have. And in saying that, the movie focuses so much on these interpersonal relationships and on our main character that it kind of lacks the tension of that first film. And I think that's one of the things that people loved about Bird Box. They loved that tension. They loved kind of the unique premise. This movie kind of builds on that same premises and tries to take some risks, so I like that innovation. I like that they didn't just kind of copy and paste the same story again. But I will say I think some people watching this film might find it a little boring or uninteresting compared to the first movie because it is so much more involved about humanity and the horrors that go along with that. I think the performances were actually very good, in particular Mario Casas as Sebastian, playing someone who is so troubled and so tortured by what they're doing and what has happened in their past that his emotion really comes off the screen at times. He's really a troubled individual, someone who is really, really struggling, and he plays the role very well. It's very convincing. And also as an actor, he has to speak multiple languages in this movie. He has to speak German, he has to speak English, he has to speak Spanish. So I like that there's that added element to it. You feel very integrated into the environment. They used Barcelona as a setting very well, in my opinion. I don't know if it necessarily elevates the film, but I like that it's a stark difference from Bird Box. This is such an urban environment, and seeing them move about and kind of the way they navigate that environment, I think they utilized it pretty well. The movie dives a lot more into religious and faith-based concepts because they are kind of struggling to understand the apocalypse. In a lot of apocalyptic films, people move towards faith. They move towards the church or building a cult. So it's not something we haven't seen before, but I do like how they integrate it into this story. There's these characters called the seers that are kind of immune to these creatures, and they're using people to use them as like kind of sacrifices or bait, and it's very dark. There's a lot of very dark motivations in this story. The first film is more of a survival film. This movie is more of a story of how bad humanity can be and how it can take advantage of terrible situations. If I were to compare the two films to different media, I would say the first film feels more like A Quiet Place. This film feels a lot more along the lines of The Last of Us. Not that either one of these movies are as good as those other films, but that's just what I would compare it to as far as the overall atmosphere and tone of the movies. There's a lot of good supporting actors in this movie as well. Georgina Campbell plays Claire. I think she's also very serviceable in this one. She doesn't have nearly as much screen time, obviously not being the main character, but I think she does a good job as the movie moves along, particularly in the third act. Diego Calva is also in this movie as Octavio. He feels like he is so underutilized as an actor in this movie, in my opinion. He's fantastic in Babylon. I think he gave one of the best performances in that movie, and he feels like he's not given enough to do in this one. So our main character gets a lot of the meat of this story, and I think he does a great job with it. But the supporting characters maybe could have been fleshed out just a little bit more. So overall, if I were to rate Bird Box Barcelona, I would probably give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. I think it's very close to the first film. They're very different. I like the fact that they kind of switch things up. We have the same premise and the same kind of antagonist happening, but I do like that they kind of took some chances with this one. I will say I think it's kind of a hit or miss for me, which one I like better. They kind of are very similar on the same level as far as quality. But I would love to hear your opinion. I'd love to hear which movie you like more and your kind of thoughts on this movie. I feel like some people may feel it's a little unwarranted, but I do like that they switched it up a little bit. If it was just a copy and paste sequel, I would have definitely said this movie didn't need to be made. But it does feel like it adds something. It kind of elevates what's happening in this universe, explains things a little bit more, gives a little bit depth to it. So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.